Hello, and welcome to Pro Wrestling Weekly UK. Today, there's a very good WrestleMania video coming up. We're going to rank the 5 worst WrestleManias of all time. So, let's go number 5. WrestleMania 27. WrestleMania 27 was headlined by The Miz versus John Cena for the World WWE Championship. The whole match was... obviously, the beginning was cool with The Rock hosting the show, but how many times can we see this happen all the time? Obviously, we all love seeing The Rock, seeing everything, but was it really needed? Like every year. It feels like WWE only bring back certain wrestlers at certain points because they can, and not because it's good for anything. I hope you understand what I'm saying. Let's talk about the whole WrestleMania as a one. So the first match opened up with Sheamus as United States Champion versus Daniel Bryan. The match ended in a no contest. So that was a bit... Then we had, obviously, I think these were obviously the pre-show. The Great Khali won a Battle Royal, last eliminating Sheamus. Again, any match, these Battle Royals at WrestleMania are never really that good, are they? It's just the way they are. Next up, we had Edge versus Alberto Del Rio for the world title. This match wasn't too bad, I will give you that. It was okay to watch. Obviously, it's one of Edge's last match. Well, it was Edge's last match at that time. He retired soon after. But the match wasn't... It was okay, but it wasn't entertaining enough. Then we had Cody Rhodes versus Rey Mysterio. And just in a singles match. Then we had the 8-man tag team match. Big Show, Kane, Kofi Kingston, Santino Marella versus The Core. The Core never hit off and never hit home. It wasn't great. Then we had a singles match. Randy Orton versus CM Punk. Then we had, this one. It was the only good thing about this match that Stone Cold was there. It was Michael Cole versus Jerry Lawler. Obviously, not something we all want to see. Then we had The Undertaker versus Triple H. No holds barred. I'm not going to say no more about that. Then we had this stupid WrestleMania gimmicky match with John Morrison, with Trish Stratus, with Snooki, versus Dolph Ziggler and Lay Cool. That's enough said. Then we had the main event, The Miz versus John Cena, as a single match. As, obviously, we all know what happened in that match, with The Rock interfering at the end of it. It's just not a great WrestleMania in total. I think they could have done a lot better, but this is just a list of I feel was the worst 5 WrestleManias were. They probably got loads of records or something, but for me, it wasn't the greatest wrestling one there I could find. Next up, we have there's a reason why this one's on the list. So it's WrestleMania 2. I didn't like a lot of this WrestleMania. I didn't like the fact that it was in 3 different arenas. It's bizarre because those people thinking they bought a WrestleMania ticket to see Hulk Hogan go against King Kong Bundy in a steel cage match only saw it in the Los Angeles Memorial Sports Arena. So it was crazy. I think they did not live stream it, but somehow record everything together. I don't know how they did it back then, but for me, the whole WrestleMania as a whole wasn't amazing. You had obviously the main list of Morocco versus Paul Orndorff. You have Randy Savage versus George Steele, Jake Roberts versus George Wells, Mr. T, Roddy Piper, the Fabulous Moolah versus Volvet McIntyre. I don't know who the hell that was. Andre Giant. The Battle Royal versus NFL, which is bizarre and stupid. We had the British Bulldogs versus the Dream Team of Brutus, Beefcake and George Valentine. We had Ricky Steamboat versus Hercules, was just another jacked up dude. Obviously, Hulk Hogan I already mentioned against King Kong Bundy for the title. We had obviously Hoss Funk and Terry Funk versus Junkyard Dog and Tito Santino. So the whole WrestleMania isn't that great to look at if you look at the whole 3 different arenas of all the bizarre and not needed. And obviously they were trying to say different, but for me, it wasn't one of the greatest WrestleManias to watch. Next up, we have WrestleMania 34. WrestleMania 34 was when we was introduced to obviously Ronda Rousey after The Rock calling her out in the interview segment against Triple H and Stephanie McMahon. It was an okay moment. Obviously, I'm not a big fan, but that's just the way it is. Obviously, the WrestleMania started off with the 30-man elimination Andre Giant Memorial Battle Royal, which Matt Hardy won with Bray's help, which was bizarre at the point because obviously they were feuding. Then we had the Cruiserweight Tournament final with Cedric Alexander against Mustafa Ali. Then we had Naomi in a Women's Battle Royal winning. Then we had the IC match as the opener for the show. The other ones were obviously the pre-show. So we had Seth versus The Miz versus Finn Balor. Then we had Charlotte Flair ending Asuka's streak. Then, if you watch, obviously, the channel, I've obviously mentioned this before, we had the Jinder Mahal match by him defeating Randy Orton in a 4-way match for the United States Championship. Obviously, Rusev and Bobby Roode was in the match as well. Then we had Kurt Angle and Ronda Rousey Then we had Kurt Angle and Ronda Rousey go against Triple H and Stephanie McMahon. Then we had the Bludgeon Brothers versus the Usos and the New Day. Then obviously we had that really bizarre Undertaker John Cena match where John Cena just stayed in the crowd for the whole time and then just jumped out when someone told him he was there. Then we had the return of Daniel Bryan, and he was with Shane McMahon versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Again, I don't think that's a great return match. Then we had Nia Jax against Alexa Bliss. AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura, which should have been such a great match, but obviously it wasn't given the respect that it would happen in Tokyo, in Japan, so it would never be the same in WWE. Then we had this was ridiculous. We had Braun Strowman and the referee's son Nicholas, obviously from the crowd, wink wink, defeated Cesaro and Sheamus, which was bizarre because the Bar at the time were the best tag team around. Then we had one of the classic Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns matches. Yeah, that's enough for that WrestleMania. It's already annoyed me by speaking about it and reliving it. Obviously, they could have done a lot more with the Cruiserweight tournament. I thought it was great. I think they should have held more matches. It would be nice to see the smaller guys like succeeding at WrestleMania. It'd be fun to watch, but it will never happen. To be fair, that's just the way it is. Next up on the list is WrestleMania 9. WrestleMania 9 was in Caesars Palace, Nevada. I don't know what they're doing with this one, but visually it looks bizarre. I was not a fan of seeing this. I was not a fan of seeing the whole pageantry I guess they would use, and obviously seeing Jim Ross in a skirt wasn't the best to see. But let's keep going. Let's keep going with the match. Let's see what the matches were on. Tito Santana versus Papa Shango. Papa Shango was a stupid gimmick that never hit off, so obviously wasn't the best. We had the Intercontinental match next, where we had Tatanka versus Shawn Michaels, and Michaels losing the Intercontinental Championship. Steiner Brothers versus the Hedge Drinkers. Doink the Clown versus defeats and was against Crush. Razor Ramon versus Bob Backlund. Money Incorporated versus the Mega Manics. Lex Luger versus Mr. Perfect. Undertaker versus Gorilla Giant Gonzalez. Yeah, I remember this. Yokozuna defeats Bret Hart, and then the stupidest ending to a WrestleMania in history. Hulk Hogan defeats Yokozuna. Bizarre. This whole pay-per-view was not enjoyable to watch for me. I don't understand any of it. I didn't like any of it. There was obviously some matches that are okay, like the Shawn Michaels match was okay, but what Shawn Michaels match isn't okay, you know what I mean, at WrestleMania. So I think that one, it wasn't the best, but let's up to, in my opinion, the worst WrestleMania for me, just because of the main event. To be fair, like Bam Bam was a good wrestler, but I don't see how a guy like Lawrence Taylor was a big name. I get that, but Lawrence Taylor is not a wrestler, and he should not be main eventing a WrestleMania main event. This is ridiculous because the match before we had Diesel versus Shawn Michaels, easily the main event. It should have been the main event. We had Bret Hart versus Bob Backlund, Owen Hart and Yokozuna against the Smoking Guns. We had The Undertaker, King Kong Bundy, Razor Ramon versus Jeff Jarrett. We had Lex Luger, British Bulldog versus the Blur Brothers. So it's not the most amazing pay-per-view, not the most amazing WrestleMania, and the main event aggravates me as a wrestling fan because I want to see a wrestling match at the end. The match, to be fair, alright, let's get this right. Lawrence Taylor didn't do bad in the match. I hate it is that he's in the match anyway, and it's the main event. For me, a WrestleMania match should be a WrestleMania main event should be the two big guys in WWE at the time, the champion and the challenger. That's it. That's just the way I see it. That's why this one is ranked for me for the worst WrestleMania. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you check out the channel, see more wrestling. There's loads of wrestling videos on this channel. Hope you guys like, subscribe, turn on the notification bells, and I hope to see you next time. Peace.